Why bother playing FIFA when you can just play Football Manager? This is one of the most common comments I get on my videos. I've also seen the other side of the argument too, with career mode fans feeling sad that Football Manager has features that they'd love to see in career mode. I see why people post these things, but it made me think, is there really room for both games, or should people just stick to one? If you clicked on this video, then I expect that you know all about how career mode works. You pick a team, you decide your tactics, and then you play the match on the pitch. Football Manager is a little bit different because you're never actually in control of the players, and this makes the gameplay loop feel a little bit different because your impact is solely in the planning and strategy rather than scoring goals and hitting the griddy on the AI. But the question remains, despite being a different kind of game, should career mode fans just skip playing FC25 and play FM25 instead? Well, let's try and find an answer. One of the most common criticisms of FC24 is the lack of depth inside career mode. While Ultimate Team gets innovations like evolutions, career mode's lucky if it gets new cutscenes and a different coloured menu. Finances are one of the things that did get an improvement a few years ago, but for comparison, this is what FC24's finances page looks like, and here's the same page on FM24. Income and expenditure impacts next season budgets. You can also see things like your financial fair play limits, any club debt or loans, and a load more information that really should be included in a footballing career mode. It's not just for show either. As I said earlier, the better you do in the finances page, the more money you'll get to spend on new transfers. Getting far into tournaments will boost your budget for the next couple of seasons, where in FC24, competition earnings never seem to make a difference more than a single year in advance. If this is the first time that you've seen these screens, I'm sure they do look a little bit overwhelming. Why would a football manager actually care about how much the club earned from Football Association grants or how much a club spent on travel costs? Well, you can actually happily ignore these screens in Football Manager, but every single aspect of the game does have this much detail, if not a little bit more. One of the more interesting displays of depth and realism is the training page. On FC24, it looks like this. You select a role to train a player in, and then the stats will improve towards the template that role uses. If you want to improve a player's passing, you put them as a deep-lying playmaker. In FM24, you have a similar list of options you can see right here, but there's way less restrictions. This means that you could train your left back to be a target man if you wanted, and you can also see something very interesting, which is the history of improvement for every player over a long span of time. Take this guy right here. He's from one of my saves where I'm managing in Wales. He's got a pretty good personality, as we can see right here, but because my club can't afford good facilities, he's actually regressed since turning 17. In FC24, even at the worst club in the worst league, this guy would have improved by 3 to 4 overall and would be on track to become a first team player. It's clear that the amount of depth in Football Manager puts the simulation aspect of the game clear of FIFA. If Football Manager was your first experience playing a football game, I doubt that you'd really appreciate the career mode systems that FIFA uses. Of course, this depth does also come with a time commitment because a season in Football Manager does move a lot slower, but I think the most important thing is your preference for realism and depth versus accessibility and simplicity. I think there's a reason that a lot of people start out playing career mode and then move over to playing both. EA has designed career mode to be easy to pick up. I mean, you can just click advance 4 or 5 times and you'll have played pre-season and be starting out in the league. The game has a bunch of systems that need to be in football games, but they're specifically designed to be quite shallow. But this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Take training for example. We talked about it earlier, but your players never have to learn a formation or a tactic. Instead, training only exists to improve sharpness and fitness of your players. Over on Football Manager, because training is one of the biggest aspects of the game, this can change tactical familiarity, player happiness, team cohesion, and a ton more, and that's just in a single feature. Transfers are another system that's designed to be accessible rather than challenging. If you have money, you can sign any player at any team. Personally, I don't think someone like Alejandro Garnacho would be happy moving to MK Dons in real life, but if you've got the budget in career mode, you can do that in Season 1. I don't think this is EA not caring about realism, but instead, I think it's done this way to make it easier for people to use the players they enjoy using. As someone who likes to start at the very bottom in both career mode and in Football Manager, I don't think I've ever had a save in FIFA where I'm not signing good players before Season 6, whereas the design philosophy in Football Manager is a slower build, so by the time that I'm able to sign really good players, the majority of the players I enjoy watching in real life have pretty much retired and are probably going to be managers that are actually competing against me. Adding sell-on clauses to FIFA was a start of adding a bit more realism to the transfer system, but there's so many more clauses that should probably be added. If you're interested in realism, then things like having transfer fees increasing if you don't get relegated, or Ballon d'Or clause like Anthony Martial had at Manchester United, or having a fee that you have to pay every time you score a goal with a certain player. It all happens in real life, and on Football Manager it makes the market more dynamic. This is because you have players moving to teams that normally can't quite afford them, but you can take a gamble by adding some add-ons, and this risks the club's finances and future stability. I have no doubt that a team the size of EA could actually make a fully hardcore version of career mode, but I'm not sure how many people would actually want to play it. Imagine playing a save where every single year your best players want to leave and your scouts are never quite sure how good your signings are going to be. People wouldn't really enjoy how slow it would be, how random it would seem to actually progress, and I think people just wouldn't play it. It's this lack of realism, I think, that makes career mode quite endearing and also quite different to how Football Manager works, because Football Manager is no doubt a slightly more hardcore experience, but people really do overplay the realism that this game has. Once you've played 100 hours, you'll be able to get pretty much any national team club into about League 1 or League 2, and after 1,000 hours, it'll be simple for you to get any club to the Premier League in under 10 years, because the same principles will apply to every single league every single season. Now, you might not believe me when I say this, but career mode can actually be harder than Football Manager, and this is mainly due to the abstraction of some of these game systems that we've talked about earlier. While Football Manager's world is rigid and rules-based, the AI in career mode is definitely not afraid to cheat. I think at this point, we've all seen teams like Brentford, Brighton or Nottingham Forest bidding £300 million on players just because they've had interest from the human and you've put them on their shortlist. This straight up doesn't happen in Football Manager because the AI is focused on creating a believable world and not a challenging one. Of course, there are a ton of things that Football Manager does get right. You can start out by not managing any team and instead interviewing to find your first club. You can pick a harder objective at the start of the season to get a bit more transfer budget, or you can play it safe so you aren't sacked. You even get a fully simulated youth league system which lets you find out how well your wonder kids are adapting. And while all of these would be absolutely amazing features for FIFA to add in their next career mode game, I also don't think they would actually change that much. Sure, we would probably start unemployed every now and then, or picking harder objectives because the objective system just doesn't make sense to begin with, but how often would you actually say these are going to totally change career mode? I don't think it would actually be that much. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely a steeper learning curve to playing Football Manager, but that's mainly because Football Manager hasn't really improved itself for about a decade. Lots of crucial information is hidden inside 2 or 3 different menus or isn't explained or understood by the majority of the community. It's only from things like YouTubers' experiments that we even know how things like the youth intake system works. This really makes me want to go back to the beginning of this video where we have people wishing that these features were in FIFA from Football Manager. Like I said, it wouldn't actually make that much of a difference, and if you want to ask the question, should career mode players just play Football Manager? I think the answer is they should play it, but they shouldn't give up on career mode as well. I think that every career mode fan should give Football Manager a go, even if it's the mobile version, but I do think career mode still has a reason to exist. There's definitely a large section of people that play both at the same time, including myself, with something like FIFA on their TV and Football Manager on their laptop on their desk. I think this is probably actually the ideal mix of the two games, but they could definitely both still improve. Next time you see one of those comments saying, just play Football Manager instead, don't get sad about it, don't wish that these features were actually in the game, just enjoy playing both. If you enjoy career mode, play career mode. If you want a new experience, try Football Manager. I play both, millions of people play both, and anyone can play both. That's why career mode players should feel comfortable playing the game that they're enjoying in that moment. I hope this doesn't seem like too much of a cop-out answer, and if you're interested in actually learning how to play Football Manager, then check out the link in the description below where I've linked one of my other channels that I've uploaded a few career mode focused videos teaching people how to play Football Manager. If you want to see more like that, make sure you subscribe to that channel and this one, but thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. Like the video if you enjoyed, leave a comment what your thoughts are in the comments below, and I'll see you soon. Cheers and goodbye.